Hi friends, I'm about to show you how to do a little bit of string art. For this, you're going to need some paper, you're going to need some string, and you're going to need some form of liquid color. Now, when I did my video about bubble printing, I had saved some of those colors that I made. So those of you who maybe haven't seen it yet, it's just a little bit of water plus either some craft paint mixed in or some food coloring mixed in. For the bubbles, we also needed the soap, but we don't really need that for this time. So if you're making new colors, it's just going to be water plus a little bit of food coloring or craft paint. I've got several different colors here to choose from, and I will experiment a little bit with how those colors kind of turn out. The first thing I'm going to want to do is take one sheet of paper, so I'll put my extra paper aside for a minute, and I'm going to fold that paper in half. So remember, when you fold your paper, you want to make sure that the corners line up. And you're going to want to press to make a nice crease right through the middle. And then I'm going to go ahead and open that paper back up so that I can see both sides of it. Next, I'm going to take one of my strings, and what I'm going to do is choose a color to dip that string into. So I'm going to go with blue for the first one, and I am starting to drape it into the water and get as much of it wet as I can. But I am going to leave a little bit clean. Now, it's not all going down by itself, so I am going to use a spoon to kind of push it down. That might help some of the color to get onto the string as well. Now, I'm taking this part that I'm still holding on to, and I'm going to slowly lift it out of the cup. And I need to try and put it on one side of my white paper. Now, if you get some drips like that, that's okay. But I'm going to carefully zigzag my string until I get to the bottom. And then the handle part, the part that doesn't have any of the color on it, is going to be on the outside of the paper. I will carefully close my paper up, and then I like to have a book to put on top of it. So I have this nice big sketchbook. I'm going to put that on top of my paper, but I still want to be able to get my handle. So make sure you don't cover it completely, just cover the paper. The reason for the book is that it helps to hold your paper in a more even way so that your hand, which is kind of bumpy, won't get in the way of the string. And what I want to do is I'll lightly hold this, and I'm going to start pulling the string out, just very slowly. And I have to keep on pulling until it comes all the way out. There we go. I got my string out, so I'll put it down. I'll take the book off, and then I'll open it up. And now I've got a beautiful print that's on both sides. So this would be a symmetrical print. It's the same on both sides because it was folded up. Now, you could try and do another color on top, but I would wait for your paper to dry first. If it gets too wet, sometimes the paper will start to dissolve or come apart a little bit. So I would probably let it dry before I did any extra colors on this paper. I wanted to show you what another color would look like though, so I am going to do this a second time on a new paper. Remember, we fold it up first. I line up my corners. I make a nice crease. I have to open it back up. I think this time, let's do green. That'll show up nicely. I'll put my string, just one end into it, and I lower most of the string down into the paint. I can use a spoon to kind of help. That way I don't get my fingers too messy. I'll get as much of that string wet as possible. I'll very carefully start to pull it out. And then, like I said, it's kind of nice to do a zigzag pattern. It's a little bit easier too when you start to pull the string out, that it's not going to get tangled up that way. So that's why it's kind of nice to have that zigzag pattern. I'll go ahead and carefully close my paper up, and I'll lay my book on top, but not so that it's covering the string. It's only covering the paper. I can just lightly hold it and start to pull the string out. And again, I'm not doing it super fast. I did it kind of slow so that it's not going to come out too fast. We want it to be able to drag across the paper. I'll pull that up, open up my print, and now I've got a beautiful movement in my symmetrical piece of artwork. Now, let's say you wanted to add extra to it. Remember, we're talking about abstract art, and abstract art really focuses on things like colors, things like lines. So we see a very distinct line in there, and it sometimes has to do with shape. For this, I do have a lot of extra white space. So if I wanted to, and if you have one of these, you could take a brush or maybe an old toothbrush if you're going to get rid of one. Don't use one that you're still using. And I'm going to dip it into one of my colors, and I might try and do a little bit of splatter paint. With the splatter paint, you actually use your finger to make the brush bristles or the little hairs move so that it sprays some of that color all over and you get little dots. I have several colors, so maybe I'll do some splatter paint on my picture with several colors, make it very colorful. So now I've got red splatter paint. Maybe we could do a little bit of the yellow here. Ooh, I like that yellow. Now, keep in mind, you should ask permission before you do the splatter paint because it can get kind of messy. So please make sure you ask someone at home if it's okay to do this first, because I am getting paint all over my table and I'll have to make sure I clean that up really well later. And there we go. I've got my abstract piece of artwork. Remember, have fun creating.